Hello, it's Nathan Stanford Sr. from Codecraft Hub, back again, and we're going to be working on finishing that bootstrap that we were working on. So let's go back here. It still looks pretty ugly, I know, but we're working on it. We're going to figure it all out. So we'll go back to the code. One of the things I'm going to do is I want to have this be fluid. What that will do is it will move it over to the very edge on the left-hand side. So let's refresh. So now it's, well, the box is on the edge. The input is not. So let's see, in the add, somehow I messed that up. So we're going to do another thing. I want the button to be a lot smaller. You can do button small. And let's do secondary. That's another color. So if you were to go to Bootstrap to find these colors that we're using, but right before I do, I want to copy this. This is some JavaScript that it helps Bootstrap do particular things that are built into the to do the Bootstrap framework. So I don't want to forget to do that. So let's. Normally you would put it in the footer right before the end because JavaScript will run the minute it gets hit, and if you're not at the end of the page, then we'll be running at the wrong spot. But there is a way to accomplish the same thing by putting the link here and then simply adding the word defer, and it will wait until the HTML loads. So you can have them both up here at the top. So if we go back here and we hit reload, the button has changed colors. Now, the first thing I can see that I don't like, I want the button here. Hold on. I bet I'm still zoomed in. I was wondering about that. It definitely looked a lot bigger. So I really would like some space between the table and the add button. So let's simply fix that. So we'll go back to the index, and you can actually say, I want a margin on the bottom. Let's just do 2. 2 is probably plenty. Hit refresh. It moves it down. It's great. Now this table line is not a Bootstrap thing. We added in an old manual way that we're going to totally delete, and we're just going to say class. We're going to say table, which now it is a Bootstrap table. And if we go look at Bootstrap and we look for table and we scroll down the list of tables, you can see there's ways to get different colors of tables. You can come down and you can see striped columns. I don't want striped columns. I want striped rows, which I think is simply to say striped right here. Say table striped. So if we come back here, we go back here, and we say, after we type the word table, we say table striped, and then we come back here. Watch what happens to this. It's a full screen because of the container, and they're striped. So they're also starting to look a little better. Let's fix the edit button and the edit link and the delete link to be an edit button. So it's real easy to do. We can simply add a class btn for button, and btn-sm because I like them small, and then btn-secondary because I want it to match the other button, quote. And now I can copy this and simply come down here and paste it in, hit save. Come back here, hit refresh, and now it's starting to look better. The way that Bootstrap works, it has 12 columns across rows. So if we come back here to our code and we want to say, I really want this to be class equals column 1. And I'm going to copy that and come down here to delete and do the same thing. So now that's 2 rows. So if we're going to subtract from 12, then that would mean this should be 10 rows. So if I go back and I hit refresh, now we've got edit on one side, delete on the other side, and the middle row could fill in a whole lot of more data if you were typing a longer to-do list. So let's also make one more change. I want the delete to go text right. I want it to go to the right. And I'm going to copy this because I want to make sure, well, let's just do it and see. So I hit refresh and it really didn't do it, and I misspelled delete, I can see. That's kind of funny. Delete. Oh, I misspelled right. No wonder it wasn't working right. Okay, so let's refresh. Go back to the page. Hit refresh. And it's not moving over. Okay, well, at least it's on the right edge. I'll worry about that in a minute because that's not as important right this second. Because it actually doesn't look that bad. It looks much better than it did before. Now the to-do list is kind of big, and it probably should be somewhere in the center instead of there at the top left. Let's do this. Let's change this to a div. Notice when I did that, I'll back up. It takes the H1, turns it to a div. Then I can simply say class equals, and I want it to be, let's say, H3, meaning it would be like an H3 tag, and I want it to be text center, and I'm pretty sure that will move the to-do list to the center. So now the title's in the middle. You can make it bigger or smaller. You can change the color of it. So now we have a to-do list that looks a little bit better than what we have. So let's go fix the add. We want to do something similar. So in the add, let's go back to the index. So for the header up here, we don't need the add button, but let's copy and go to the add page. What we want is this here, text. Now notice, because I'm doing this, I have to cut and paste into multiple places. That's not a good thing. You want to learn how to follow the dry method. Don't repeat yourself. And so if you find you're repeating yourself, usually that's a bad thing. We don't need this add button. I did copy paste and I got the add button. But let's copy the coloring of the add button. Let's copy that part and let's get rid of this link because we don't need that add button. But we can come down here to the submit button and say we want to have a class equals. So now our add button that's to the right of the name we're typing in will match the other buttons that are on the other page. So now if we go and hit refresh, the add button's over here and that other button's gone. But because this is just adding, we have two things we can do. One, we can leave it here, or we could move it to the other page. But let's for now leave it here just because I've got some things I want to show you. Normally, if I was building this like I was actually going to use this as a to-do list, I'd go ahead and move the add to the other page. So I may end up moving it in a little while. But what I really want is this add here to be this button information to be in the center as well. So let the form to be in the center as well. So I moved the div and I didn't move enough. Let's copy that and let's put it down here. So now we've got this div, and then everything inside this div should be moved over, and I didn't want that. So now they're lined up the way they should be as far as two spaces, so you kind of know where things are at. So you go back here, hit refresh, and now we have the add in the center, but it's way up at the top. It's right against the title, and really the button does look a little too small in this particular instance. So let's do that. And then what we really want to do, let's actually copy this, paste, and then I'm going to say ending div here. And we don't need the text to be H3, but we do want it to be center, the form to be center. And then what we really want is margin at the top to be, let's just say 3 spaces away. So if I hit refresh, add button's bigger, and I think I'm going to go back to small. I don't know. And I can't really tell that it moved down far enough. So let's put the button back to small, button dash small. I tend to use that more than I probably need to, and a regular designer might tell you that you can get away with doing something else, and they'd be right. I am more of a programmer than a designer, but I do like things to look good. This is something simple. The page is so white. I would probably change the color scheme and all, but we're not doing that. So what we are going to do is, let's go back. We need to do the edit the same way we did this. However, let's just look at this. Let's go here to application.cfc, and let's say we want to create a request variable. Now when ColdFusion loads, it opens up the application.cfc first, or the old file was a CFM, but it opens this first, and it will, the first time the application's opened by anybody is where variable start happens. However, each individual person has a session, or if you've got sessions turned on like I do, when the person comes in, the session start will run for each individual person. Now, request simply runs every time you click and go to a page. The request starts. So if you set a request variable here, let's say page title equals home, and you say request dot app title equals, and we want this to be the to do list, because that's technically the name of the application. It is a ColdFusion one, but that is what we want it to be called. So if I copy these two, save, and I come back here to the index page, I can say I want to have this to-do list have a CF output, and ending CF output, because you're going to put this information in here. We don't need